Hi, my name is Samuel O, and I majored in rhetoric and minored in education. Um, I'm doing this YouTube video or this YouTube link because I sent an email to the TEP director and acknowledge or mentioning to her that I wouldn't be able to make the interview dates. That's why I'm actually doing the international YouTube prompt or the video link for this section. So, uh, just to do a little recap of what the prompt is, it's you are a teacher, leader representing a group of educators involved in opening a neighborhood public school. This school will serve low income, racially, culturally, and linguistically diverse students. Please describe your vision for the school and the following four different aspects. Okay, so before we go into the actual description and the vision of the school and the four different components, I want to first uh, tell you the name of the school and also the different assumptions that I will be taking during this time. Uh, the the school that the name that I gave the school was Cloud9 Academy. Now this is something that I've always envisioned, and Cloud9 Academy would be a public charter school, still a public school, and Cloud9. The term simply put a happy or euphoric state of mind. However, sometimes Cloud9, that term has a negative stigma because it's attached to the term because of its relation to the sensation that you get after taking drugs, like I'm on Cloud9 feeling. But I'm going to reappropriate that definition or that idiom, and I'm going to say that the term is to suggest the feeling students get or an individual gets when he or she is trying is so passionate about what they're about to do because of the wealth of knowledge that they have, but more than that, because they're about to take the risk to push the boundaries of the status quo in whatever endeavor they find themselves partaking in. So, for myself, I know I've been on. I know I've been. I've had the feeling of being on cloud 9, right? So that's the reason why I would want to call this school Cloud9 Academy. Some of the assumptions that I will be taking are uh, a community. The school will be located in an environment such as the Bay Area, currently where I am located in, or the LA area, right? Because it is a low SES, low income, racially, culturally, linguistically diverse. I just assume that the school will be located in this type of area, and I will be taking less of a concern about the financial backing of the development of the school. Um, I know there are different steps, practical and ideological steps that need to be considered when creating a school. But for now, for the purposes of this prompt or answering the prompt, I will be less concerned with the financial support and the backing. Okay, so what is Cloud9's Academy? Cloud9's Academy or Cloud9 Academy's vision? The vision statement that I have here is Cloud9 has a vision of one, equipping students with fundamental skills that meet California's educational standards. Two, equipping students with skills and knowledges that will push them to become future trendsetters, industry initiators, inventors, and leaders. Three, Cloud9 has a vision of providing a holistic education that develops students into responsible civic actors. Given that vision statement, I'm going to go to the first aspect of the prompt, which is how the vision for the school addresses needs and interests of the community. Now, because this is a low SES environment and it is a diverse demographic, uh, I try to simplify the needs and interests into two different aspects. One, the economic need, and then two, the social needs. Um, so let me talk about the first one. The economic need is actually grounded on the educational need, and what I mean by that is, in order to change the economy of the environment, right, of any environment, you need to be able to attract local businesses or more businesses at least, or attract external business to open opportunities, employment opportunities for people within a community. Correct. So, what uh, how Cloud9 Academy would attack the economic need of this community is one, um, attract local businesses and external businesses by the vision statement, because the vision statement will um, is trying to the vision statement is trying to make the statement that in the future the students that we produce will be the talent that set the new trends, that set the new industries. Correct. Um, so what this helps, how this helps this economic needs, at least for the students, is it makes students more familiar of the surrounding community, what kind of businesses and the economic conditions are of the area, and also aware of this the surrounding jobs and job opportunity, or different types of jobs that are available in the area or in the nearby areas. Um, why is this important? It's because if we want, one of the interests and needs of this community is to have economic change, right? We want to go from a low SES community to a higher, to improve the socioeconomic status of the people within this community. Well, the only way you could do that is by having a high retention rate of talent. Now, if you have different businesses investing in this school and having a rapport and relationship with the school, then what could happen? Not would, but what could happen is that the students who graduate from Cloud9 Academy would be able to excuse me would be able to return to, or I mean, consider the Cloud9 Academy and the community that it is in as a future prospect to live in. For example, I used to live in Riverside, except that I recognize that there is no real industry there. There isn't. It's not really growing economically, so there wasn't much of an incentive for me to stay as a student there, and I didn't want to stay. So the idea of the school building rapport and relationship with these outside communities or even local businesses is to, one, provide hopefully provide students with some kind of opportunity of internship opportunities, but more than that is in the long term to be able to attract businesses there, to create more job employment and more employment opportunities or industry opportunities within the area, right? It's a long-term project. um, and another different type of economic or educational need is to have Cloud9 Academy a facility to expand beyond secondary schooling. So, for example, one concrete way of doing this: provide low cost night adult language classes. Now, these could be these could also be technical classes that parents or individuals that just recently immigrated could take in order to expand their skill sets, right? Given the lingual diversity and the racial and cultural diversity, I'm very sure that a lot of individuals will not have a strong grasp of the English language, and to know or to get classes or to receive education to know English better would help those individuals get jobs or apply for jobs in a more effective way. Um, and finally, one educational need, or that would help the economic need of the community, is, one, have Cloud9 Academy's facility of a space available for ethnic communities to rally, advocate, and voice their needs. Right? We, as a school, we want to create a sense of belonging for the people that we serve, and that can only happen if we can create an open space for people to come together and voice their opinions of what they believe and what their opinions are for from us, from the school. And I think that's very important, and actually transitions right into the social needs and the services that Cloud9 hopefully in the long run could implement, the different types of needs and services. One thing that I have in mind is, okay, Jeffrey Canada established the Harlem Children's Zone. However, in that he is famous, his eminence comes not only from the school that he's founded there, but more so that the whole transformation of the different blocks, or the many blocks that he covers, and how it started off how the Harlem Children's Zones first started off was through social services, whether it be informative meetings or workshops, basic parenting, asthma awareness, preventing obesity, and different type of like social needs like employment, work permits, basic taxing knowledge, mortgages, financial education and loans. Like, what is the process? How is that process? Uh, how does that process function? What do new individuals that recently immigrated or are trying to assimilate into the U.S. What are the steps necessary in order to effectively assimilate or best assimilate? Correct. So hopefully, even though the academic needs will be the first, academic needs will be the first thing that's to be implemented. In the long term, hopefully, Cloud9 Academy can be more than just an educational facility. It can be a place where social needs and services can be met. Now, so those are the two different needs and interests that I try to simplify. So the next part is how the vision builds upon community assets. Now, um, one thing that we need to realize is the community. What kind of community are we serving? It's a racially, culturally, and linguistically diverse community. So, um, what that means is there's going to be different types of knowledges and expertise. So I saw a recent TED talk of Chimamanda Adichie, a Nigerian woman, now professor, explaining how it's important to have children and students know at an early age the danger of a single story. And she explains, and through that TED talk, how she grew up as a Nigerian woman, a girl, except reading all British literature, and then in effect producing stories that only had white individuals in her stories, but she was black. So there was a lot of conflict. There was conflict not only in that the white race and the black race, or the African, I'm sorry, the white race and the black race, danger of that single story, but in addition to that, that type of education or philosophy influenced Chimamanda's understanding of different Nigerians within her own country, and she felt that that was very dangerous. Now, what I envision is to expose students to the multiple perspectives and multiple stories, and how do we do that? How do we get students to understand that there's different perspectives at an early age? Well, one one idea is one idea that I thought about was creating an yearly cross-cultural exchange or a fair or an exposition where families and students, by juxtaposing and exposing the backgrounds of various ethnic communities, show what each culture or family is capable of producing. So, in other words, um, it would be like a fair where people come together and they can share whatever they want. They can sell whatever they want. But through this, it would be a fair or an exhibition where families can come together and the community members can come together to understand and see who's in this community, which communities this school served, and to build understanding and perspective. Right. Quite often, I think a lot of 1.5 generation students um, grow up not necessarily being proud of where they're from, right? Because they are from low SES communities, they might feel ashamed or whatever it may be. However, by having some kind of cultural exchange or fair like this, I believe that students will be able to be proud of their backgrounds, right? And this will also bring awareness and within the community. If we bring awareness within the community, there's going to be less stereotyping, and then there's going to be less stigmas. And those whatever stigmas there are, those things could be broken down. And I think this is very important because in the type of community that we serve, since it's such a polyglot, the diverse there's so many different languages that are present. Ethnically, people can just kind of herd into different little pockets and never actually communicate with each other. But if we see the community and the diversity as an asset, then man, I believe that it's Cloud9 should take advantage of the diversity in a concrete manner, and the cross cultural exchange is one way. Another way is creating after school transportation schedules and with parents of Cloud9 Academy students. And what I mean by that is I took a class with Professor Ingrid Ochi, who graduated education PhD in education at Stanford University, and she told me her description of when her younger daughter went to an elementary school, yet she didn't have the time to provide transportation after school sometimes for whatever activities. So what she did was she initiated and reached out to a different Asian family. Ingrid was Caucasian, white, but she reached out to an Asian family, and in the process of reaching out to the Asian family to ask the mother to provide transportation back and forth for her on some days, and other days Ingrid would do the same for the other Asian family. What they do is they basically what they do is kill two birds with one stone. One, they provide transportation for each other. Two, there is a rapport being built, a different type of trust, right? Um, a lot of times, parents depending on race or ethnicity become very segregated, or they segregate themselves. So I think if you create this if Cloud9 Academy somehow set up a after school transportation program, well, what would happen is it would show students that they're at an early age that there can exist a community with cross cultural exchange at a very early stage. Number two, I think if we did this, there would be universal belief displayed to every parent that other parents want the best for their children, right? Lastly, I think a volunteer program could a volunteer program that takes individuals who that don't have work permits, or that aren't able to work legally. What we could do is at the volunteer program, what we could do is use whatever work and energy there that individuals are willing to give, and uh, put an incentive to that. For example, if one individual were to serve a certain program for a certain number of time, the incentive could be that we could, in return, give them free access to the night classes, perhaps. And I think that's very important because it can help build skill sets onto the resume or whatever it may be. The next part is how faculty and staff will support student achievement. I think one thing that we need to define first is what we mean by supporting student achievement. Student achievement can mean and I've broken it down to two different things: quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative meaning the student achievement is measured by student test scores, and qualitative is measured by student experiences. For example, internships, work experience, or extracurricular activities or clubs that help students succeed, that help students think in a different way. Excuse me. So one way that we can definitely help support student achievement is from the onset of hiring faculty and staff. We need to make sure that the people that are hired at Cloud9 Academy are on the same page. They understand the school philosophy and are on board with the vision statement. Why is this important? Without unity in the institution's team, there will be tension in beliefs and direction of achievement in both quantitative and qualitative aspects. Right? If the philosophy and the vision statement is not clear to an individual, then that individual is going to have tension, or going to be in a different, that's going to choose to want to go in a different direction. Now that can be very thwarting towards the vision statement, the progress of the school's goal. So we don't want to have that kind of situation coming about from the beginning. Now, the second I guess a little bit more abstract way of supporting student achievement is making sure faculty and staff know each other's workload and responsibilities. And what I mean by that is making sure teachers know how much know who to turn to in order to or whom to turn to for like different resources that they cannot provide for students. So, for example, I worked during this past summer for Summer Bridge. It's a it's a program for incoming freshmen at Cal. And what we did during the hiring or during the training session was bring all the faculty and staff together and in a matter of 2 days know and explain the boundaries of one's work. And why was this important? Because we need as teachers and staff or faculty and staff, we need to know our boundaries in order to not have to be the Superman or the Superwoman of serving the students in every single way possible. That it just isn't effective and inefficient of our time and energy. So if we do know what resources are available, then we can most efficiently and effectively serve the students, right? So what does this mean? Is we're working towards balance, communication, teamwork within the institution, trust within the institution, and efficiency. If we get the balance, communication, teamwork, trust, and efficiency all together, I believe that we're going to have an effective institution towards the vision of the school. Some special, more concrete ways that we can provide student achievement is perhaps providing assistance with special needs students, providing assistance to special needs students, um, having an on-site psychological counselor, having after-school tutoring connected with the nearby campus, such as UC Berkeley if it was in Oakland, or UCLA if it was in LA. And or another thing could be another concrete step is we can increase the school year and the school day perhaps, but make sure that those increased school days and increased school hours aren't aren't just drawn out for the sake of drawing things out, but it'd be more the purpose would be to draw them out in order to make their schooling experience more enriching, right? We don't want to waste a single day or nor a single hour. And finally, one thing that I wish I'm not really sure if many schools have is have staff who are both grant writers and researchers. What I mean by that is we in staff in a school, it would be very convenient if staff could take on the responsibility of not only grant writing, but in addition to that, research on the side different trends in education or different softwares and different applications that a school can use at a low cost or free cost that would definitely improve the pedagogical experience. I'm sorry, the pedagogy used in an institution and increase the educational experience or improve the educational experience of students. So some things could be some things that I've looked into is knowing different software tools such as Khan Academy, rubrics, different type of rubrics online, or just different types of softwares that provide free educational instruction that can make more clear the content material for students if they're having trouble, right? Or maybe even data systems to help can help assessment and accountability even more efficient and effective. Or researching educational trends, for example, the MOOC movement or the massive open online class movement. Like, where is that going? Is that something that we can use in order to help the students within our academy? I mean, if students just have a computer, basically what they can do is go online and educate themselves. Why do they really need us if we just do some scaffolding and help them to look for the educational content that they need? It definitely gives them or the students more responsibility. And in addition to that, different types of technology implemented within the curriculums or the programs at the school. For example, games. Like, what are different strategies or what curriculum design that can implement technological games within the class to make class more interesting? Teachers or faculty might not have the time to do this kind of research, additional research. So it would be very nice to have staff who can do both grant writing and cover researching to best support student achievement. Finally, we the last component is the kinds of educational experience students will engage in to close the achievement gap. So what I have here as very important in the curriculum design is I'll just read what I have here. Curriculum design is extremely important because depending on the design, students will be able to connect classroom material to the world beyond the confines of the classroom and see education as a practical tool for them to wield. Right? So a lot of times education, from my perspective and my opinion and from my own experiences, education is very fragmented. Fragmented meaning the things that the content material that you learn in class, in a literature class, in a history class, only pertains to those things. It's never really understood to apply to external things beyond the classroom. Now, it might be different. Everybody's educational experiences are different. However, I want to really emphasize that we connect everything back to the real world. All the teachers know that things need to be connected back to the lives of the students. So, one type of curriculum or one type of educational experience that students at Cloud9 would receive is problem-based curriculum. So, for example, in math or psychology or in English language or whatever class it may be, maybe science class, all those classes were, if they were to be set up in as problems, like you're trying to solve a problem in a math problem that's supposed to be a solution for a real life situation. Like students will be able to say, hey, wow, education is actually practical, right? Or sometimes there is that maybe negative bias or a bias that quantitative classes are more problem-based and more applicable to real life situations, except that I think problem-based designs need to be very clear, or it can be very helpful in more liberal arts education. So in English language or English literature or in history classes, a lot of times it's the histories or the English language or in the literature that we're learning isn't really connected or bridged back to the problems of the students' life experiences. So maybe if we can construct the curriculum such that it connects back to their world and how the content of the class can actually help I guess create a solution to their problems in their own worlds and their realities, then it would be able the students will be able to see very clearly how education is very useful, a useful tool. Another way is project-based curriculums. So from my understanding, Larry Rosenstock, who is the CEO of High Tech High in San Diego, leads a school, secondary school, where most of the curriculum designs are project-based. And why is project-based so important? It's not only because of the individual responsibility, but the team-based skill sets that you learn and that best emulate a professional environment. Why is that important? Well, the fundamental California standards are very minimal as to what is expected of students once they graduate out of high school and once they graduate out of college, right? Project-based learning involves a lot of skills such as accountability systems and team management. And man, if all of the classes were to have design their curriculum such that they're not everything, but many things are project oriented, then the students can know that, wow, I do have an individual responsibility, but my individual work is supposed to be reconnected to the larger scheme, right? The different talents and the different skills that are within a team. And I think that's very important, especially when students graduate from high school, graduate from college, and are looking for employment. And lastly, a different type of educational experience that I think is very important and unique to Cloud9 is cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary learning. I think this is very, and what I mean by interdisciplinary learning or cross-disciplinary learning is preventing students from a siloed or fragmented education. And what I mean by siloed, I mean by having disciplines stick to her or stick to themselves. So if it's history classes, U.S. history classes only pertinent to U.S. history ideas or anything that has to do with U.S. history, and that it doesn't extend beyond that. Math classes only are math classes only cover math subjects. Now, I understand that each discipline and subject do have their differences. However, I also see a lot of similarities. And what the cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary learning at Cloud9 Academy would do is many things. So let me give you three examples. If there was a project that a math class, an English class, and a psychology class came together to talk about basic logic. How does logic work with language, how we understand it with our minds. And then the study of semiology, or the study of signs and symbols, and attributing meaning to these signs and symbols is very closely related to the English language, or just language in general, with math, right? Math being quantifiable, it's a quantifiable language. And I think it's very important that students know that these things that we have in our world, signs, words, or even variables, all those things are substitution to bring about meaning as human beings. And if students knew that at a very early stage, sure, it might be very difficult or maybe even complex, but I want to say that we can push those standards or expectations of the students. Maybe we're not pushing them enough, right? And another example will be with English and history. For example, during the apartheid government rules, during the civil rights movement, maybe going beyond just the historical content of that period is what we need. For example, the English language and the language during that time that influenced the history and the results and the effects of history, and how that in return had a reflective, or it definitely affected the English language during that time, right? I think even English and history cannot be separated, and this type of cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary learning is already being projected at schools such as Oakland Technical High School, which I volunteered, and their program is called the PADEA program, and the PADEA program is specifically connecting the English and the history in order to make more of a fluid learning, right? The English and the history needs to be connected because they're not independent. Lastly, something that many students wouldn't ever think of is connecting the arts and the sciences. For example, a lot of individuals that I've come across believe that arts is more emotional, more of an expressive account or expressive discipline that has less of a logic to it. And science is more quantifiable, science is more objective, science is more X, Y, and Z. But that's very false. From my experience, the arts has a huge design principle and knowledge that is implemented within the art realm. In order to be an artist, you need to be able to understand the history of the different techniques that you might be using and why those techniques are used today, in order to go beyond what is the status quo of modern art, perhaps. Similarly, science, it does the same. If you ask any scientist, they're not going to do research on something that already has a huge literature on it and already is done, right? Scientists are constantly trying to find new knowledge, and what that means is to understand the literature behind a certain subject, and then after understanding the literature, they're going to try to go beyond, push beyond what is already known to the unknown. And I think there's design principles specifically in the scientific method that is very similar to the design principles in art when one creates art. And I think being able to bring an art class and a science class together will be very enlightening for a lot of individuals. For example, Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was a phenomenal scientist, but beyond that, he was a very talented artist as well. He was a very talented musician. So I want to say that something in the arts influence or must have at least correlate. There's a correlation into Einstein's brain, and somewhere in the scientific mind of his side and the artistic mind of his side, in order to bring about his theory of relativity, right? Um, why is this important? Why is this type of cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary learning important to close the achievement gap? And ultimately, I want to come back to the vision of the school. The vision of the school is, equipping students with fundamental skills that meet California educational standards. Two is equipping students with skills and knowledges that will push them to become future trendsetters, industry initiators, inventors, and leaders, and providing a holistic education that develops students into responsible civic actors. Now, if you have an interdisciplinary style of education, a student who perhaps looked at math and looked at language and studied and got a little bit of an introduction to semiology would maybe be able to think about, well, how do different communities or how do different individuals perceive or use language to perceive, or how does language affect their perceptions, right? And or vice versa, how does perception affect the language that they place? And I believe that that type of curiosity can only be like, drawn out at an earlier stage in students if these different subjects are taught in an interdisciplinary manner. In addition to that, what that creates is it creates talented individuals, passionate individuals who are very curious, but at the same time are the individuals that may um, you know begin new trends within a certain field of a discipline, or might be the new individuals that set uh, create new industries that might bring a different market, a different pool. And again, the idea is to hopefully bring it back to serving the needs and interests of the community. And I believe that if the students receive this type of education here at Cloud9 at a really early age, and the different businesses do invest because of the vision statement that Cloud9 has, I believe it is um, only a cycle, maybe a feedback cycle where we're producing the academy would be producing students who are really innovative, who are really thinking about what's going on, or about about future, about our current state, our current economic state within the community or globally, and then bringing it back to the community. We want to keep that retention rate there. So I want to say that the education that we implement, not only problem based project based, but also with this interdisciplinary uh, learning would help. The ultimate goal of not only fulfilling Cloud9 Academy's vision, but also at the same time serving the needs, whether it be economic or social needs of um, the community or the city that we're serving. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing at the end. I know it makes more sense in my head. However, I try to best articulate what I envision for Cloud9 Academy if it becomes a reality. I thank you very much for your time and energy, and I just hope that we meet again in the near future. Thank you very much.